Hello everybody, welcome to week 12, and this week we're going to, in the Zoom sessions, I'm just going to make a quick recording here to walk through assessment 4A and 4B and explain some instructions for you to be able to participate and complete the assessment. Okay, so assessment task 4A falls into two major parts, but there's actually a few different parts. So let's go through that. We're going to read through this document now. You are to write a review of a case management plan of a young person who is a client in your work placement agency and write a report on this. This will assess your practical skills, knowledge of a process of monitoring and evaluating the progress of a case management plan and the progress of a client. It allows you to identify what has worked, what has not worked, what changes need to be made to the case plans, and what steps need to take place to implement a case closure. Signaling the client has been able to meet the individual goals your agency has assisted them on. Whilst this is based on a real client scenario, all information presented must be identified so that person who is subjected cannot be identified. So we're going to write an assessment. You have to write a report reviewing a case management plan for a client in your workplace. Now, you will have more or less involvement in that. Some of you will be shadowing more, some of you will be hands-on more, some of you might just be only able to observe client files, depending on how much your organization assists you. So be aware that you're going to start from the beginning and you're going to go all the way and try and, in your report, represent the end. And so it's best to go in a logical order. Okay, so let's read through here the key tasks of the case report. You're to review the case of a young person, obtain relevant details. This may include interviewing the agency supervisor and other members of staff, sitting in on a case review, and accessing client records. Now, based on this, you write the report, a short outline of the client, their identified key needs. So this will be based on their assessment. What are the goals and strengths that they present to the organization with? So the assessment identifies needs. The needs, therefore, tell you about the goals. If they need an assessment for mental health, one of their goals is obtain an assessment for mental health, for example. If they need to be reintegrated into education, if they've been absent from education, for example, then you need to undergo a process whereby you reintegrate people into education. That might be a long-term goal. So there might be a number of strategies to do that. So the goal, therefore, is listed as reintegrate with education and strategies, etc. But you're not actually being asked to identify every step of the case plan, just an overview of the case plan. So based on write an outline of the assessment and the main goals. Then you talk about how the client has progressed towards achieving those goals. And so you might say, you know, the client needed a mental health assessment, so we obtained a mental health assessment in week 1, and the assessment identified there wasn't a mental health issue, and we then assisted and supported the client to achieve some support to help them address their mental health problem, and maybe they were medicated, something like this. And you might write that down as to if the goal has been met. Now let's go back to the idea of the education reintegration goal that we might, as an example, have talked about. So in that regard, that might be an unfinished case goal that you need to represent in your assessment and you in your report, and you say, well, we've been working towards reintegrating the client back into education, and we've made this number of steps. We've managed to identify a suitable TAFE college, for example, and the client is working through their interests to try and understand which courses they might accept, something like that. And you might pick a date that you might be trying to help your client to start their new journey into education in a certain trimester within the year, for example. So you might write that down and represent that. Now, there might be other issues that will indicate that you will stay involved with the case management until the client has managed to achieve that and is then either independent or linked in with certain agencies, and they will keep an eye on the client's situation. So you need to be able to write that down as a number of sentences. So in a chronological order, write the assessment, write the goals, write the strengths and write the assessment, the strengths and needs, the goals, what steps you've gone, how do you monitor the client? They've come every week, we've visited them. How's the client engaged in the case plan? They're good, they've done it well. These were some of the problems that we've had in the case plan. This worked and this didn't work. The client refused to accept the medication, for example, and what steps did you take in order to try and help them, to support them to meet the responsibilities they had in the case plan? So maybe you've gone and counselled them and talked to them about the need to take medication, for example, and now they're back on taking medication, or they're still not willing to take medication, for example. And the success or lack of success in the case plan and the client's progress is not a problem. It's not your problem, and it's not something you have to worry about when you're doing your assessments. What you when you're making your report, you just report faithfully what's happened in that case plan. And so we're anonymizing the client, remember, and then you finalize this by saying, before the client is able to be, the client's case is closed with this organization, we'll need to achieve these aims. And it will really depend on the organization you're working in as to what capacity you're working with individual clients. So don't worry too much if it doesn't sound exactly like the case plan that you have been doing in your own work placement. So as we're moving on, I think we've covered pretty much all of this. We've pretty much covered this, really. So apart from number 6, submit a third-party report from your agency supervisor or the supervisor of the agency overseeing the case management of your client. So, so you need to get a third-party report, and in order to do that, I've provided this on a separate document. Let me show you the document here. So I've written this third-party agency supervisor third-party report, and you'll be able to find this hopefully in your appendix. Let's turn up here to the course, and I'll show you where you can find it. Actually, for students in this course, I've emailed this to you because this wasn't actually in here and I don't have access to upload that in the templates. I beg your pardon, so I misled you there, but you will have received an email for that. Hopefully you'll have received an email. If not, get back to me. So write your name, write who your agency supervisor, sorry, your agency supervisor writes your name because they're completing this. Who is assessing you? What's the name of your agency supervisor? What date did they assess your participation in on? And here we have some of the categories. Now, the feedback is optional. I would suggest, if possible, that you encourage the supervisor to provide feedback that in how much you participated in the management review meetings and how much you demonstrated understanding of the process of monitoring, that you've demonstrated an ability, and your supervisor can sit down and interview you. If you've not actually engaged too much in case planning and case management in your organization, then ask the supervisor to sit down and quiz you on what the processes are so that you can respond to some of these questions. Demonstrate ability to analyze the client's progress, understand where the case plan is working, where the case plan is not working, and some modifications that you might make to case plans to ensure they're more appropriate and effective. Demonstrate ability to analyze the effectiveness of the referrals. So would one referral be more effective than another referral, for example? Demonstrate an ability to reflect on the strategies and processes they used to assist clients and identify what worked and what didn't work for clients. And again, your supervisor might tick a box saying, "Yep, fine," and that's okay. If they tick the satisfactory box, yes, tick, 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 that's okay. Overall feedback, we cannot dictate what your supervisor is going to write. And if they have assessed you as satisfactory, and I would encourage that you encourage them to do that, tick the satisfactory box and then upload this to the class space. That is the third-party report. Now, finally, let's have a look at the next part. I'll take you back to the original document, which is Part B, the case review. Now, interestingly, Part B uses Appendix 4A. Because the other appendix didn't exist, I've just knocked that up and emailed that to you for this course. So Part B uses Appendix 4A, and Appendix 4A is this document here. And this is to review the client's case review recommendations prior to closure. So this is all about you identifying with the young people. Now, there's a bit of a missing gap of knowledge in this, a bit of a missing information gap here. We don't really have a follow-up past the point that you've done your case plan. So this is the point that you start. So you've done case plans for Grace and for Danny and for Jason. And within your case planning, you will need to write down what priorities have been achieved and what haven't been achieved in order to, so it's a bit like a review of the case plan, but there is a missing, so you'll write this down as a case closure scenario here. Copy the case plan into here. Case closure scenario, you should be able to copy some of these. The priority might be, must be completed. So can be ongoing, for example. So let's say the mental health assessment must be completed. So we've arranged and so the goal, arranged a mental health assessment, the recommendation that caseworkers for a mental health support agency monitor your client for ongoing compliance with the medication regime. For example, they keep taking the medications. The person who's responsible will be the staff in the mental health support service, not you. Crucially, for this situation, you will have released control of this and made a referral to a mental health support service, for example. And the review date is not applicable really, because also it will be by the end of the case plan. So that referral needs to be set up. So that might be actually one of the goals that you've got in there, refer to external mental health support services. That could be a goal that you would write down for the mental health thing, for example. So what you're doing actually is you're making sure that your client is supported post the period of support that you're funded to provide to the client, and that also the client is able to keep working on their case plan goals, even though it's no longer appropriate or relevant for you to be involved, because you will have made enough referrals to make sure the client is suitably supported. And with each client, obviously, we're going to have a range of, you will have identified what supports you need for youth work, and that would be in the case plan, and you just follow up on that. Because you're not going to see any progress, because there's no written scenario for progress within this assessment, if we go back to the assessment and read the assessment here, it doesn't actually give you a post-case planning scenario. You've made your case plans, you've made your referrals, and now you're giving an analysis of a situation that you would provide to get the client close to case closure. And you are doing this for 3 clients, so you've got to copy and paste this 3 times, Danny, Grace, and Jason. Copy and paste that 3 times and complete that document. There's a lot of cut and paste you can do for that. Okay, that's the end of our little assessment scenario here. I'm going to stop this recording now. Good luck, and by all means, join me on Zoom if you have any problems. We'll be available on Thursday the 16th, which is today, which is actually now, so I'll be available to answer your questions, and again on Sunday as well. So don't be afraid to turn up on Sunday at 4 o'clock, and is it 4 o'clock or is it 3 o'clock? I've forgotten which one. Sunday at 3 o'clock, or is it 2 o'clock? 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock on Sunday for week 12 in order to be able to get this in for your assessments. Okay, thanks for your time, everybody. Good luck. Take care. Bye.